Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Top Cyber Pro podcast. I'm founder and CEO of TopCyberPro.com, Jim West. And right here, we have a wonderful guest today, Elcin Biren, who is going to talk about a lot of different topics, AI, her book. We got a lot to talk about. So we're going to get right into it. Elcin, would you just kind of quickly introduce yourself and talk about all the different hats you wear and the roles that you serve in the industry?
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me. Actually, my journey into cybersecurity began exactly 20 years ago
Hmm.
after completing my first ethical hacking training and alongside my very first role in the field. So, from the outside, cybersecurity felt actually instinctive rather than accidental. So, the responsibility of protecting the system, people, and society resonated deeply within me, especially as a woman, to protect and safeguarding the digital world. I think as a national extension, I can say how I think. And with a background in industrial engineering, I quickly understood that cybersecurity is not merely a technical discipline, but a system of processes, decisions, and human behavior. So the process optimization, strategic reasoning, and problem solving skills I developed through engineering became fundamental how I approach cyber risk. And early in my career, I had privilege of building an international professional network. And at the age of 25, became one of the youngest board member of ISECA, participating in global board meetings where cybersecurity standards were discussed and shaped. And my first full-time position was within a large holding company operating across 20 industries, where I audited and reorganized IT security processes, mapped threats, and translated technical findings into board level heat map. These are important for me to start with because all these experiences shaped my enduring, if I say, perspective,
Hmm.
while cybersecurity itself often perceived as intangible, but the consequences of failure are unmistakably real.
Hmm.
I'm quite against of creating a fear factor, which is very important to show the risks and the threats. And also, I'm quite because I believe that fear and regulation, the tick box alone, do not create resilience. The resilience only created by understanding the risks. And for this reason, I usually define our roles as cybersecurity executives, cybersecurity professionals as translators.
Hmm.
So, someone who ensures that risk, threat, and responsibility are genuinely understood by those who must act on them. What I mean is, I stop asking, is this safe? But whether do they understand the risk, whether the risk is comprehended, whether the stakes of each decision are clear, and whether security teams, even security teams, with the curiosity of an attacker mindset while acting with the discipline of a defender. Because what I see in the security teams that I work, some people even don't know the effects to their work, to their work to the customer side.
Hmm.
So we need to understand the why. We need to be a good translator. You need to understand the topic. You need to understand the language that you are dealing with. Then you're able to understand it into different languages.
Hmm.
So this is the philosophy has guided the evolution of my career ever since then. I moved to Ireland. I'm originally from Turkey. And after Istanbul, my almost 5 years in the holding experience, I moved to Ireland. I work at EMC. Now it's Dell. So as a pre-sales engineer at that time, then it was a long time ago, almost 16, 17 years ago. Then I moved to Switzerland and I started working as a CISO advisory. And then I moved also, I worked almost 10 years at the bank, one of the biggest wealth management at UBS. And I had multiple roles there. But I didn't stop. I now left corporate world as a mother of two. I see firsthand that the iceberg beneath the surface is much dangerous than we see. And even a cybersecurity professional, I I was struggling to protect my son's own bedroom. Then I said, okay, we need to do something. So I am now here with my new company, SwissCyberSmart, to protect the most vulnerable, our kids, our children, the next generation, and also digital, the baby boomers,
Mhm.
because people over 60, they are also one of the most vulnerable groups. So now my days are very varied. Everything is very different than the corporate setup. So here I am today.
Awesome. You know, there's a
I,
lot of good things you mentioned there. And when you talk about trying to get stakeholders and other executives to understand kind of the why these things are important, I'll share something I just developed that I'm promoting this year in several events. As I develop a presentation as an audience interactive presentation called Insecurity, and it's lowercase in, capital security, and it's meant to show people. I teach in 1 hour more about cybersecurity than they could learn in a 40-hour class. And so I've delivered this a few times already. It's been, really great feedback, but I do simple concepts like having people take their wallet out and going through what's in their wallet to show them that they're a mobile data center because we carry all these IDs, these bank cards, these all this information in our wallet. We're a walking data center. And then I talk about the home and I go through the different scenarios that make it relevant to them as an individual so that when we talk about defense in depth, we talk about policy and regulatory things, they start to now understand really what these mean because you make it relevant to them. But I love how you make it very tangible. But you mentioned Swiss CyberSmart. So let's talk about your company. What is its mission and what are the things that it's doing for industry and for the world?
so the story actually begins. I started asking questions. Why are we still failing to protect? The hackings are because if you, I want to start with a story, a very recent story. Last year, end of summer, a major insurance company was hacked, exposing the personal data of 1.5 million or 4 million across North America. And this wasn't some outdated legacy systems. They had cloud security, they had multi-factor authentication, they were about all measures compliant. So what went wrong? According to the company, a malicious threat actor exploited the system using a social engineering tactic. So a method that typically involves tricking someone into handing over login
Mhm.
details or access credentials. So for 20 years, on the other hand, I have been protecting Fortune 500 companies and their millions of customers from the more sophisticated cyber threats. But I had to face a harder truth. I couldn't protect my own son's bedroom, as I mentioned, because the biggest battle in cybersecurity in the AI age isn't happening in corporate boardrooms. It's happening that we have the best tools and we are compliant. It's happening in our minds and it's happening in our homes, and it's there. Hackers are targeting our most vulnerable moments, our most vulnerable connections, our kids, our parents. So, and when I see the numbers are also staggering, like more than 500,000 online predators are actively targeting kids, and sextortion and grooming cases targeting children have risen, I think, over 300%.
Mhm.
And with the explosion of AI generated content, and these threats are scaling exponentially every day. So with Grok now, last week news, it was, all the nudity pictures. So the risks are, the threat factors are changing, and the people, it's the technological, all this invention and this exponential growth. But our minds are not really keeping up with all changes and all the threats. So then I said, okay, we are failing because we still say the same thing again and again. We said human are the weakest link. We need to understand the data. It's very important that nearly 30% of Gen Z don't report even identity theft to any authority. And among all the society, 90% of cyber attacks go unreported. So
Mhm.
let me repeat again. Over 90% of cyber attacks, people don't report, not because they don't care, but because they feel ashamed, embarrassed, when we call people the weakest link, And when we tell someone you are not enough, we don't make them alert. We make them ashamed, and this shame shuts people down. It stops them from reporting. It keeps incidents in the dark. So we are then with the Swiss CyberSmart. I never intentionally wanted to create a training system, but I created a training platform from my own experience at home, how I manage with my teenager, with my two sons, to manage their digital habits. Because I'm also an educator, I'm an adjunct faculty in different academic groups. And then I noticed that even, different executives from different non-tech or tech or even security, we don't really understand and we don't really tell cyber stories to each other. So it's a blocker for us to report. It's a blocker to us to change our behavior. So after a long time research, it took me, I think it kept me awake at night for a couple of years. Then I said, okay, it cannot be a side hustle. I need to do something for a long-term behavior change. And I'm also lifetime learner, like many of us in the cyber field. But I'm very interested from the beginning of my career in the human-computer interaction, neuroscience, behavior science, and cyber psychology. And currently I'm doing my cyber psychology master's, and I'm also working with different universities for the researchers. So then I said, okay, I want to bring something different just as a mom, not only my cybersecurity head, but as a parent. So I created a platform. It was, I think, still one of the first platform last year. It's a short, like a masterclass kind of trainings. So you go and you spend 5 to 10 minutes a day. It says 28 modules. And then you go and you have a lot of exercise if you want to do it after the session. So then it starts from the understanding why technology is not neutral anymore, how it hijacks our brains, how our dopamine effects are, and it creates what is the difference between being a consumer and being a creator, and going with a lot of examples and also tools that parents can use how to translate these risks to communicate with their kids. But in the meantime, when you are moving to the modules, you also start understanding about the cyber threats beneath the surface, understanding why. And then at the end, I'm teaching them how to create their digital castle. So they're in terms of, even going from very, how to filter, how to protect their network, how to protect their Wi-Fi, how to protect, their digital footprint. So all the cyber topics we are covering, but we are covering in a very simple language. And this also affects, then we build with this one, the corporates are very interested. So last year I had the privilege to give these workshops to Google employees in Zurich, to Logitech employees, to Salesforce employees, because of, I think, their culture, they're very open, this kind of new next gen awareness trainings. And then also the human resilience framework also started with this idea. So now the corporate employees, they're having these trainings for their employees. And because when everything is connected, it's especially after pandemic, we see that, most of us now working still hybrid. And when there is even, if your son is playing, if your kid is playing Fortnite, it also, if there is one vulnerable link, or if your partner is sharing too much in social media, it creates a risk. And with an AI, it's automated. The hackers are doing automated scanning, and they can really easily spot the vulnerabilities and start. It's very easy to hack. And the other thing is also, for me, creating a cyber resilience mindset, because we see the suicides are happening in 24 or 48 hours. And even the families that they have really strong connections, still kids because of they are, especially teenagers, with all these feelings they cannot handle and they
Yeah.
cannot tell, and all this. Then for me, it's very fulfilling. It's a very from cybersecurity has been always my mission. I have passion. Now it's turned into a mission. So it's very busy. It's a very different kind of setup than corporate world, I
Hmm.
must say.
Yeah.
The corporate world is more structured. Now it's very unstructured. It's very, you need flexibility, but I love it. And I think now uh, we, I personally delivered more than 1,000 employees last year training live. It's a lot of,
Wow.
and I know that people are talking about cybersecurity at home. So this is a very different fulfillment.
Well, that's wonderful that you're taking this mission on because you're right. Our elderly, our parents, grandparents, as well as the younger generation has no clue about the dangers. They hear it in school. They might see something on the internet, but it doesn't really hit home because it's the same thing we do as adults. When like something bad happens to somebody, or we see like a killer was found in this neighborhood, and what do the people they interview always say? We never thought that would happen here, or we never thought it would happen to me. And until you're the victim, we always think, oh, that's somebody else's problem, or that's not me, that's not home. But when it does hit home, it particularly like when a teen suicide happens because of something that started on the internet, and it devastates a family, a community instantly. So thank you for taking up that mission. I do want to mention, are you familiar with Ben Halpert?
Yeah. Actually, we met. It was so nice. This year, I was invited to Black Hat conference. We
Mhm.
had this, yeah, for my book launch and privilege, and also for the Cyber Security Woman of the Year awards. And then, yeah, I met Ben. It was actually he is doing. I think he started his Cyber Savvy Kids
Yes.
20 years ago.
Hmm.
He's doing amazing, and I'm really very excited about, he's gonna bring translating the because his books are under 7 years old, and it's very important for behavior change. So we had a very, very good
Wonderful.
conversation there.
Oh,
Yeah.
good that you know Ben. Ben is also on a very similar mission. Um, Speaking of books, and think I see it on the table behind you there. Can we
Oh
talk a little
yeah.
bit about your book?
Oh yeah, of course. So it's actually I the initially I thought this would be just another cybersecurity awareness book filled with tips and strategies. But it started, I always wanted to write a book. I always wanted to tell about also tips and the awareness tips, which is actually my second book now I'm writing.
Mhm.
But my first, the other idea that I started when my sons were already like much younger. I wanted to write something for them to explain cybersecurity, a children's book. Then they kids grow very fast.
Yeah.
So I soon realized that I wanted something more. I wanted this book to focus on connection, understanding the history of the internet, the evolution of cybersecurity, and how these forces shape our mental health, relationships, and daily lives. And I wanted to move beyond facts and figures and tell a story that parents and teenagers alike could relate to and reflect on. So I took also writing classes for 6 months, and it was really good to understand all the hero's journey. But then, I had because the more you learn of the techniques, I was a very beginner amateur mindset, and it was that time easier. Then I said, okay, it turned into a science fiction book. So I made a decision to lean into that area because it's a mother and son duo. They do this internet history through time traveling. So this character's journey from the dawn of the internet, beginning with the ARPANET, because even, many IT people, we don't know the real
Hmm.
story of it. And I think talking about the history of it, it's also my mission in SwissCyberSmart, making cybersecurity a kitchen table conversation. I thought it will be a good start, especially for teenagers, because many parents, especially they are coming to me and they say, they are digital natives and they already have their phones. They are 16. I don't know how to handle, but I'm very worried about them. Or they are 14. How I open these conversations. So I thought this creates a connection, a bridge. So to generate. Actually, it's an effort to connect families, bridge
Hmm.
all those generational gaps, and provide a guide for navigating the digital world safely and meaningfully. So I I want parents and teenagers not only understand the dangers, but also appreciate the incredible opportunities that come with living in a
Yes.
global connected world. This is important, but now the balance is important. And also in the book, I want that people understand cybersecurity is not about protecting devices. It's about protecting people, our loved ones, our
Yes.
communities, ourselves. And this book is my contribution to that goal. And it's a story of connection and hopefully resilience and the lessons we can learn from the past to safeguard our future.
Wonderful. And folks, don't worry about pausing this video and doing a Google search. Elchin will get me the links for the books and everywhere it's available, and they'll be in the description below. I see that you have a copy there by the lamp behind you. Do you mind showing us up close the cover and of the book?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So there, that's a beautiful cover. Look at the design on that cover. So
Yeah.
Guardians of the
It's
Digital Age, Securing the Future. And is there a back illustration or text?
no,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Wonderful. Well, folks,
So
the
just
link will be in the description. Get your copy, check it out. I've already I searched for it online. There's several places offering this book, like Books a Million. There's a couple other sites out there. Of course, Amazon is, everybody can get any book on Amazon, but there's lots of links. So we'll have all of those in the description below for you. So, what has been the feedback and response you've gotten from this book, from industry, from other parents, from other cyber professionals?
I mean, now it's very exciting, and it's actually I still need to do a couple of book launches, which which is still pending, and so far it was really I received a very good feedback, and in the beginning people understood that it's more like a child's book, so this was one of the feedback that I received from two people. They were, oh, okay, we thought that this was a child's book. I said, "No, it's from 12 onwards, I must
Yeah.
say, because they need to understand." And also, I'm talking about just Kevin Mitnick. I have a lot of books of Kevin. And, all the, I mean, the cybersecurity, also the people that, because I think Kevin's story is also very interesting,
Mhm.
and to understand the programs that I'm running now, we are also hopefully running some of them with Interpol. So it's like think like an hacker, act like a defender, because there is always a fine line between
Mhm.
two. And I have always, especially my ethical hacking community, my friends, especially childhood friends who are hardcore, coming from the, because I wasn't. I started my job, my first job was ethical hacking,
Mhm.
which it was quite intense for me as an industrial engineer without a computer engineering background. Then I studied also computer engineering 1 year. But some people, they start from their, I mean, 10 years old, or then you see that they always have one friend go to the other side. And it's really, it's important to understand the differences, and also, I think, acknowledging the people's decisions. And I'm always very inspired from people's biographies. So I try to put, of course, there is also, I mean, some of the chapters and the storylines I wrote 4 times because it was, yeah, there are digital twins, and my protagonists are two of them are women. So the ARPANET starts with, which is also a real story. This starting as a grandmom. So these things, I think it's so they appreciate, and I also have a very honest, very open the how do you call it, the preface. So about my experience, and so yeah. So it's really good. But I need to do more book launch kind of things. I am failing on this one.
No
I must
worries.
admit that.
There's plenty of time, right?
So thank you so much actually for promoting my book here.
No
Much
worries.
appreciated.
So,
I hope
folks,
that it
again,
helped. Yeah.
all the links are in the description below to go get that book, check it out, and please, if you do get the book, leave a review. As an author myself, reviews are very crucial for authors because it helps in the grand algorithm of whatever site and store or retailer you buy the book from. Reviews help other people connect with your book
Oh
because
yeah.
people, read other people's reviews and make decisions whether to purchase or not. So if you do get the book and read it, please leave a review because again, we need to get a lot of parents on board with this book because Elchin is doing some great work here. I do want to circle back on something about your mission with the Swiss CyberSmart of educating people, parents, and teenagers and preteens and just children. As you mentioned, the most vulnerable, the human aspect. Recently Australia made the news because their government passed legislation to limit social media platform access. I believe I don't know if it's 15 or 16 and under to not be able to get on social media. What are your thoughts on that? As a parent, I think I already know the answer, but what are your thoughts on Australia's legislation to prohibit children under a certain age from being on social media? And the second question is, from your perspective of what you hear in your connections in the EU and Europe, is there discussions being had in those European nations to maybe do similar legislation and laws?
I can start with the second question. Yes, many countries are taking responsibility and
That's
following
good.
Australia. One thing that we need to, I mean, the technical part, as a technical expert, that it's not that easy. We know it's not. When I look purely with my technical expertise, I don't believe that it's a long-term solution.
Hmm.
I really think that, and as a parent, I really think that it's important. It's like, like in the US, even I think 16, when I first visited the US many years ago, like almost 25 years ago, they were, checking when you go to, when you want to order drink, they want to check your ID. So, which is also protecting, the young adults. So this is also, and unfortunately in tech products, we don't have this kind of legislations, this kind of regulations. And this is really, really a huge impact, especially with AI, as it's rewriting the rules at every step of the attack kill chain. It's writing the rules of every step of the product, how we protect how we produce new applications. It's coming
Hmm.
very easy, but also it comes with a lot of vulnerabilities. So we need regulations and legislations, and then it's coming really, really very slow. So it's very important to have these measurements. It's very important to get the bans, but how the kids understanding, because for me, pedagogic part is very important. Cyber psychology, the psychological part is very important because we are now, because there was a huge gap. Many parents, they didn't know, without acknowledging the risk, especially with pandemics, they give all the digital devices, even at schools now. Denmark just rolled back. I don't know if you heard about EdTech last week.
Hmm.
They had a decision now because they noticed that after all, couple of years, actually the reading, the many things now is like there is a negative impact on child's
Yeah.
cognitive development. So, and the other thing with edtech is there is many countries, there is no consistent security policies applied to the, all these devices, all these application softwares. So I have mixed views. So what I mean is we need a training. We need a training support to the parents, to the school communities, to educators, and we need to also really explain our kids that it's not about that we don't trust them. It's not about that, they are not enough to protect themselves. It's about the risks. It's about actually, we as parents, we don't know how to handle this the tech. So this is because the biggest risk that they are going to find other unregulated tools, and which is actually more dangerous in my
Yeah.
eyes. It's also, so I have, it's very necessary. because unfortunately, say billions dollars of market that big tech is not taking any action. They are lobbying. So we need to do something, which is important, especially when there is a gap between parents get the training, educators are also get the training, which we are also aiming now. I'm talking with multiple countries and also in Switzerland to train the trainers and then giving kids also this encouraging them to be the ambassadors, like cybersecurity ambassadors, like we create in the companies, and then sharing this knowledge with their parents, grandparents, and create this societal impact for a behavior change. But as it takes time, so I need to explain in detail that I have mixed feelings about it.
Mhm. Well, I do think that it's important that government are realizing the dangers, right? And that there's discussions happening. At the end of the day, it's better that the discussions are being had than not had. And two, I agree with you. I don't think there's going to be, as you know, no matter how much money you pour into creating technical
Uh,
safeguards or age verification systems, kids are going to figure it out. You know, all it takes is one kid in the school to figure out, and then he's going to share it with everybody, and then all the kids are bypassing the
yeah.
security measures. So I do believe it is a very tall challenge, but maybe in time things will get better. But the long term, when you talk about there's short-term band-aids, but then there's the long-term real effect, the behavioral change. I think parents have to learn to find better ways to be able to have the difficult discussions with the kids, where the kids want to say, "No, mom, dad, I don't want to hear it. I got it. I know more than you," or you know, or they trust their friends more than they do their family. These are those societal walls that have to somehow we got to figure out how to break them down and how to have closer relationships with our children to where they do trust their parents to help them when they are dealing with difficult things on the internet or potentially being led down the road of compromise or malicious activity that they would entrust to come to their mother or their father or some family member saying, "Hey, this is happening." But again, until we break those behavioral psychological things that occur in all families and different levels, it's a challenge and it's never going to go away anytime soon. But it's good that folks like you, SwissCyberSmart, Ben Halpert, and all these, there's so many individuals that are trying to fight this good fight, and I appreciate you and everyone that's doing that fight. Um,
Thank you. And also,
Go
I
ahead.
want to add quickly something. When I talk with the kids, it's whether they're teenagers or they're at the university, Gen Z or Gen Z, a couple of actually, now they're also in the workforce, but they have very different understanding and perception of the life than, our generations. And I really see the difference when I give them explanation of when I give them an idea of how the hacker mindset, how it works. So how they create, how predators and hackers use urgency, fear, scarcity,
Mhm.
peer validation, um, feeling of FOMO, missing, what was it?
Missing out.
Missing out and shame. So all these same cognitive biases, they are how they exploited in cyber attacks. It's like whether it's code or connection, because hackers use code, predators use connection, manipulation tactics, psychological manipulation. So the strategy is always the same. I told them, so they want to build the trust, gain access, and exploit and stay in control with you. Then that's why, or when we really show them, okay, you share this information now, but the digital footprint, are you going to be okay when in 3 years time or 10 years time, because it stays forever?
Yes.
And these kind of, or using AI also, what information, and it's even, I don't need to go very even in my circle, in my family, still I need to explain every day. It was again Christmas time, it was a New Year time, people gather, people have nice photos, everybody wants to share, but why do we share? Do we go, is it really needed? Is it about very what is in it for the long term? Or it's like we need to, it's a lot of now, and I really like the idea now, because the modern society, as we need to not only specialize in one thing. For example, in cybersecurity now, psychological part and the neuroscience part is very, very connected, deeply connected. So this is I think that's why these conversations, these kind of education is a human right.
Hmm.
Because it's again, of course, governments are interested, but also there's another angle, because then it's we are losing our privacy when when it comes to identifying all this access for these apps and everything. So there is always a compromise, of course, to protect the kids and our cognitive. I think our gain is much more, but it's also we need to understand. I think we need more critical thinking. I call thinkeracy in the schools, in education. This is a very, very, very important tool in the AI age.
Wonderful.
Sorry, just I want to
Oh
mention,
no,
yeah,
thank
this
you
is I think.
for sharing that. I like to take what I call a moment of levity to kind of take a break from the tech talk and cyber talk. I'm going to ask you a couple of what I call quick fire, rapid fire questions.
Okay.
All right, there's no right or wrong answer. So if you'll humor me, I'm going to shoot some questions at you. First thing that comes in your head, just say it out loud, okay? We'll start with this one. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Sandwich.
It's a sandwich, okay. Cake or pie?
Oh, cheesecake, always.
Cheesecake, okay. Well, hot or cold cheesecake?
Hot. Baked cheesecake.
Just baked out the oven. Okay. Star Wars or Star Trek? Now that one will split a room of IT professionals real
Oh,
fast.
oh, this is very, very difficult because we even call our furniture like RTD2 is our, the coffee table. Okay,
Coffee
this is
table.
RTD. This is, yeah, it's like we are, yeah, middle. I don't say huge, but the Star Wars fan. But when you ask me now, because of I think the feelings that I have about the Star Trek is more in terms of I think the positive impact, positive behavior change. I want to say Star Trek.
Okay. All right. Which crew of the Star Trek is your most favorite?
Oh, maybe the science part of the
So you had the
yeah,
Captain Kirk era, the
Captain Kirk
original,
area, yeah,
and then
yeah,
you had
yeah,
Picard
yeah,
and so forth.
yeah,
So
yeah, Captain Kirk area, yeah.
Captain Kirk era. Okay. What has been your most favorite book of all time, and what was the last book you've read?
Oh, my it's very hard to say for my
Okay.
favorite book, but I must give one book really change also how I move from corporate to make it, because it was very hard decision. It was The Artistic Way of Julia Cameron. It was very interesting, and it's really because many things that now I'm always in the creative mode. I'm producing every day a lot of content for cybersecurity, educational materials, and really making something like you say. I would love to join also a training gym, because it's really. I mean, these now, for example, I'm giving. Can I give a long answer?
Yes. Okay.
So when I started training the educators, they don't have much time. They're already overwhelmed with the current curriculum. They're already overwhelmed with their own responsibility. They're already overwhelmed with the generation has no attention span. They're already overwhelmed with the expectations from parents, from everybody, that they need to. Everybody thinks that they sleep and they wake up and they all know about the
Yep.
dangers, everything about the modern society. So when I talk more and more again, started working with them, okay, like in the beginning we plan, okay, this curriculum's like hundreds of pages, and then we implement in 40 hours. And you think about, okay, 6 months, only a couple of hours in a week. No, it's not working. So instead, then you need to create very smartly, but still you need to summarize in a couple of hours, but you still see the changes. So in this Artistic Way book, I really go deep dive into my artistic self and how to create with also wisdom, using my all to channel through my all cybersecurity experience, and with my other interests like neuroscience, like the psychology together.
Mhm.
So it was really a huge change, because I'm quite a bookworm, so it's very hard for me. And I also love Rumi, and I'm a Jungian as well. So these are also for me change, how I perceive the life. And also, I'm very interested in quantum physics. So these are also interesting. But currently, I'm reading 3 books. So it's the one is Control Alt Chaos from Joe Tidy, the BBC first cyber security correspondent. Joe's book I really recommend to everyone. It's super important to understand how hacker mind works, because this is the interviews that he have done with, he did with many different like this criminals. And it's really breathtaking. It's very interesting, especially cybersecurity, because I think we should understand also this hackers, especially young hackers. There are for example the Finnish one that how he hacked like thousands of people psychotherapy notes and shared. It was really very very bad case. And then the other thing is also the other book I'm reading now, the Jacinta Ardern's Different Kind of Power.
Okay.
So the former New Zealand president's book, and because I think it was really very interesting how she led and how she show up, and it's time to step back. So it's very interesting for me, and especially as a woman, being bold with your own. So I think this is very important, especially working in a very male-dominated field. And in the beginning, like thinking about fitting in instead of belonging. And I was very lucky actually that already I was belonged to, but because of the societal perception, when I told them I was an ethical hacker, or that, oh really? So because I'm not the stereotype of the cybersecurity engineer that time. So that's book really, and also I devoted myself since the beginning of diversity and communities. And the other one that I'm reading this one quite slowly. It's think like it's Stoics, I think, because as I mentioned, I'm very interested on the philosophy, all these concepts, because I'm very interested to understand the universe. So that's why this is the I think the book, the writer is the Ken Mogi, if I'm not mistaken. It's the somewhere here, but it's Ikigai. I don't know, maybe you may know. It was one of the bestseller book about the Japanese thing. And then I thought, so it's very interesting. I'm now only in the 2nd chapter, but it's very interesting.
Okay. Well, please give me all the links to those books, preferably Amazon links, and I'll make sure they're in the description below. So, folks, you could check out those great books as well. I'd like to talk about your day one story, if you wouldn't mind sharing us the story of when I say day one, the day you made the decision to go into ethical hacking, IT, cyber, like the first day, if there's a story that you could share with us. And the reason why I love this question, just to share with you, Elcin, is that anyone watching this video right now, they're in whatever point of their life, whether they're, in college, not happy with the direction they're taking, or maybe they're a college dropout, or maybe there's someone that's mid-career that really doesn't like what they do, and they keep hearing about opportunities in cyber and want to make that jump. So when I ask the day one story, it's that maybe someone watching will see a piece of themselves through your story. So can you share your day one story?
I mean, when I hired by the one of the biggest holding companies and company in Turkey with 20, to audit 20 sector for years with pen testing and IT audit. So I thought that because I'm an industrial engineer and I did the job description was for financial audit. So, and there was also IT audit, but then I thought that there are more the conversations, the interview side is more like the financial audit. But then after half of the interview, I noticed that actually they're really thinking, I'm a fresh graduate, so you don't have many chances or many, I don't know. And you sometimes, it's, I think the new generation is a little bit different, but in my generation, you go with the flow. Okay, you accept the opportunity, especially it was really, really very highly competitive place in Istanbul kind of places. So then then with my all, the researchers thesis and everything, and the programming skills, and because that time, unfortunately, cybersecurity was also, I think the understanding of cybersecurity is very technical that time. And they see that, okay, you have coding skills, you have programming skills, and they say, okay, you are a better fit in IT security, IT audits. Then once I understand in the beginning, I had like, especially, pen testing role, um, then I immediately starting the ethical hacking course, and I was also taking the courses, and then also it's like a laboratory. I was also doing all this audits, not in production though, because it's quite risky to stop the
Hmm.
production or slowing the production process. But one thing I think the takeaway that I can give, so you need to step back and understand your role, the impact of your role in a holistic picture. You need to see the full picture. Why I'm doing this thing? It's because in the beginning, when I do, pen testing, when I mean, and also the password, all this can enable the tools that you are using. Okay, you had access to all the passwords, or depending on what type of the pen testing you are doing. But in the beginning, I felt there was a discomfort. But once I understand that I'm protecting the company before, the hackers, bad threat actors are finding these vulnerabilities, I am giving actually a chance to the IT department to close these gaps. And so then once I understand this, the protecting is a, I think, very natural instinct as a woman. Then I fell in love with cyber. So, and from that day, then of course, then I discover many things. And I really encourage people to try we have in cybersecurity, you can be policy manager. You don't need ethical hacking trainings, especially now. We need really good communicators. We need really good people from coming, like the language, even because it's a translation. And if you
Hmm.
understand its methods, we need really good translators as well. So we really need very different mindset, especially in the AI age, because it's also very easy, many technical things automated now currently with AI and by AI, and then this is very easy, much easier to, I think, get into the field. It's my
Hmm.
understanding till the AI took some of the jobs in
Yeah.
cybersecurity for automation. So we really need people, very different, I think, the backgrounds, academic backgrounds, ethic backgrounds, and also the generational backgrounds. So there is always a right time to enter the cybersecurity
Always.
field. Uh,
Wonderful.
so
Uh,
this is a, yeah.
So, in your journey, you've been in the industry for over 20 years. I know they've had to been either managers, directors, executives, or just cybersecurity experts that you admired, looked up to, or that had a positive impact or influence along your journey of your career. So the question is there any names of folks that you want to pay homage to and just to say these folks have been tremendous, had a good positive impact along my career and journey?
Oh yeah, there are many, many people, and my recent, actually, the cheerleader, and I moved to this journey. Darren Argyle, he is a Cyber Institute leadership co-founder. If you know Darren, he is a multi-times, I think, 4 times CISO, and he's really doing a great support. And along the way, I mean, all my managers, I learned, my team, I learned a lot from everybody, because I think I really believe that we are also for our growth, of the personal growth, we are mirroring our um, I think the vulnerabilities as a human,
Hmm.
and we learn. There is always a lot of opportunity to learn from each other. So every connection that I made, in the bank, also I had, and I had also, for example, Neil Pollard from the US. We had I really like working with Neil. He's from the Federal Bureau. background. He was our global CISO. So, and I had really, and also along the, and my first manager in Selim Dayin Sank Holding, also the CTO that because my role was like a CISO and a CTO, so it's an audit but reorganization role as well. So we really work very closely. So I really liked our sector. We have a lot of collaboration opportunities, and we really, because we need to but when I start thinking also the IDC communities, the ISAC, there are a lot of people actually,
There's so
because,
many names to name,
we
right?
so many names,
So,
because we share, but in my career, then I noticed that um, the perception is, of course, as a woman, it's always a difficult thing. It's more about you because you don't see yourself as a stereotype. You don't see yourself as but people, when you step back, and I was very privileged to see that, especially working in the engineering team, security operations. And I had also great team members, great manager there. And then at the end, it's about what you do in your daily job. It's not
mm,
about, where you are coming from. It's not about, I mean, if you have the right culture, of course.
yes.
But of course, there are also very sad stories because as I led different women in tech communities, we also had very sad stories for the bad culture, but I was the lucky one
Yeah.
still. And I surrounded with people for, that co-elevate each other.
Wonderful. So, my next question is a lot of us professionals, we're really busy with our jobs, writing books like yourself, speaking at events, and doing all of these things that we do in our careers. But a lot of us make time for causes, whether charities, nonprofit, volunteer work that are near and dear to our heart or that we feel is doing good in the world. So, the goal of this question is there any charities, volunteer work, nonprofit organizations that whether you give of your time, money, or energy that you want to, what I call shine a light on because of the good work they're doing. Like for myself, as an example, I'm a real big proponent and contributor to St. Jude's Cancer Research Hospital because of the work they do with children unfortunately that get cancer at a young age. And there's a couple literary programs that are nonprofits that I support as well. So, whether you give of your money, time, or energy, the goal of the question is there some organization or charity that you want to shine a light on because of the great work that they're doing in the world? Just trying to make a little bit of a difference in the world.
So, with SwissCyberSmart, actually, this is the aim of giving now. There are not one charity, but there are also multiple groups or initiatives that I'm working, especially for younger to protect kids online, and also the Turn, for example, in the US, or but in it's more individual effort, but as a company effort that we are giving a lot of scholarships and a lot of scholarships is a voluntarily, the education. Now we are planning in this year more giving this plus 60. So adults for, I don't want to use old age facilities, but these are their carers because they are the really most vulnerable groups. So we
Hmm.
already have some. So now there's a huge project that I cannot think yet, but it's coming hopefully this year as well. With a lifespan psychologist that we are doing. She specializes in this wise learning for the old plus 60 adults and for cybersecurity trainings for them. So yeah, this is also for me, it's like the whole nature of my company is all about this. So
Yeah,
it's more like not the profit, but it's more like making an impact.
making an
So I
impact.
breathe and live for actually this idea.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
wonderful. What is on for 2026? What is on your radar? Is there events that you're already on the agenda to speak at? Is there initiatives or a new book maybe in the future? What is the projects and things that you're looking forward to that you can share with us for 2026?
Oh, thanks for asking. Yeah, it's in the we have World Economic Forum. I don't know when you are posting our conversation, but it's then this year I'm the Global Council for Responsible AI's chapter leader in Switzerland. So our council is the world's largest responsible AI governance ecosystem. So and we are almost 700. Our foundation chapter in the US in California, and we are 700 ambassadors. And now we are united with Abraham House, and maybe you may know Sol Rashidi. So she is the first chief AI officer. She used to, I think, at IBM, but now she is the inventor of Human Application Index. So then, so there will be like alliance that we bring together governance, diplomacy, and measurement into one purpose-driven framework. So we want to ensure AI systems deployed globally enhances human capability and rebuilds societal trust. And this year at Davos, so we will be talking about the responsible AI and the ethical AI. I think this is a very important topic because we know that the trillions of dollars are going and projected for 2030, but 85% of the AI projects are fading because of this, especially the responsible AI use. And so we need to make sure that we implement the algorithms for actually benefiting the human, our society, not creating. There is a race now going on with every country, but hopefully it will be some impact that we could create. And this is now the first thing on my agenda. And in March, we are doing again, this is a volunteer thing that we are doing with the Zurich, Canton Zurich in Switzerland. We are similar like in the US. We have also small cantons. And then in Zurich Canton, we will have like a informatica, so information day. So we will be giving education with different schools, and this is a huge 1 week of cybersecurity and online safety education across the city. And there are now I'm gonna reopen my YouTube channel. This is the plan. I give a break. I started in 2024, and then 2025, I think I was too busy, but I really wanted to do, or maybe it's sometimes you need to step back to understand, because it was really growing quite good. And I also, thanks to the followers, I got really, really very positive messages. So now this is the other decision that I made. So I'm gonna I mean, it's already up, but
But you're gonna
create new
create new
content.
content.
Yeah.
Please share that YouTube channel with me. And folks, the YouTube link will be in the description below. I want to circle back on the ethics that, the committees and all these council meetings are having, because a couple years ago, I had several discussions with a couple of scientists from MITRE, as well as a few other organizations I can't name for confidentiality reasons. But some of our discussions was about the ethics in AI. And, obviously ethics are very closely aligned to morals, as we know. And so the problem is in different regions, different countries, different cultures that shape morals that ends up being translated into ethics laws and legal regulatory things. It gets difficult to get the whole world to always 100% agree because of the little nuances and differences in culture, as again, how it correlates culture, traditions, well, tradition, culture, morals, ethics, laws, regulations, right? So we have that kind of that meet in the middle. So one of the things that I've suggested to many scientists globally is to consider, because obviously maybe we not can't get to 90 or even 100% with the ethics and morals where all countries can agree, but there are philosophical razors. So we use them every day, like Occam's razor, Henslow's razor. There's a bunch of philosophical razors. I think about 13 razors that are very prolific in psychology. But the philosophical razors, I think, is a good approach to ingrain those into certain types of AI. Maybe not all AI systems can benefit from a razor, but I believe that for certain systems that will conduct human repetitious automation, if you will, would benefit greatly from a philosophical razor. So it's just something to offer that I think when they're having these discussions, people sometimes focus too much on the differences that we all have from regions, from like Europe versus Asia versus Africa versus US, etc. Instead of looking at those ethical differences, because there are a few nuances and differences, but if we can maybe introduce the conversation of how could we maybe look at the ethical razors to take care of maybe 60 to 70% of the use cases in AI, and then the last 20, 30%, which are more contextual based, we can still work on that 90%, trying to get everyone to get to that 90%. But I know it's a challenge, but the fact that lots of folks like yourself, you mentioned 700 plus people in a global organization, that's a great step in the right direction to get people around the world to have the discussions, to have the
Exactly.
debates, and to iron out those little nuances because it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it as long as we achieve at least 90% or greater agreement is better than where we're at now, where everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And the fear is that all these different countries are going to just create these silos, and we don't need silos when it comes to AI. So, what I do want to do is, Elchin, please make sure you provide me all of your social media links, like your YouTube channel, your LinkedIn, or wherever you want people, because I know people are going to want to connect with you and follow you and see all the wonderful content you're going to be posting this year in 2026. What I'd like to do now is we're at the point of the podcast where we pretty much will covered all the ground I want to do. So this is the moment I give all of my guests for this season, I give them the final word. So you could talk about cyber, you could talk about your book, you could talk about anything you want to talk about. You could talk about cheesecake recipe if you like, but the final word, the floor is yours.
First of all, thanks for having me. I think it's very important to talk more about cyber, more, and we need to, um, instead of just reading cyber very reactively, and the news, we need to embed the cyber or with the storytelling to our lives, to our, to neighbors. So, to the audience that who are listening to us, I want to invite everybody to speak about a cyber incident that they have to make it a fun facts, not how they fell into this kind of trap if they had to. I mean, this is because we all have these kind of moments. We are human, and being human is the strongest defense we have. I want to repeat, being a human in the AI age, it's the strongest defense we have. I'm using AI databases, but this is our superpower. It cannot replace my thoughts. When I want to create all the things that I first create, then I ask how to just help me to think critically or analyze, these things. So because if we rely on everything on an AI, there are many things, many. I think we still cover maybe less than 5% of our human brain, the capabilities. So there is a lot of things. We don't need to go and rely on only the technology, but within us and the relationships also. The longest Harvard, I think it was the longest research that, they've been talking about the happiness is the relations. So that's why they're all connected. Don't think about cybersecurity, which is one of the technical field in our industry, in IT industry. Still be human and talk more about cybersecurity and with the kids, with the children, with the parents. And this is actually my wish for the 2026 to make cybersecurity a kitchen table, our lounge conversation.
Well, Elchin, beautifully said, and thank you
Mhm.
so much for being part of the Top Cyber Pro podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim, for having me again.